So we're gonna try. I told Peanut just to drag this whole pile here. He says the tractor ain't gonna pull that much, and it looks like he might be right. Because this sand's really heavy. So we've gotten down to mostly just pure trash here. We're just pulling the roots out of it. And you just keep on doing this, make piles of your debris, filter it out. It's a little bit of a process, but it sure does beat doing it manually, which would be basically impossible. And Peanut's controlling the depth there, just not leaving it down, just trying to get the trash off the top. All right, we're gonna flip this around. Like I said earlier, the top link bracket, or the side link bracket on this is really long. We're gonna have to jam the rake around. It's the only thing hitting. On any other tractor, we wouldn't have a problem. All right, so shorten your top link as much as you can. And what you can see, this right here is hanging down at least 8 inches below where it should be. And the good thing with our rakes is we go ahead and most rakes are just held on with a big carter pin up here. And if you get a lot of pull, you can. I've seen a lot of those carter pins pulled down through the tube. It jams up, makes a really big mess. And as they wear, you've got no adjustment. This is a fine thread nut, which is the most expensive crown nut you can buy. And it gives you a super fine adjustment to keep your clearance right here, because you don't want all the force to be on your kingpin. You want a lot of the force to be on this plate here against the rake. So we're going to probably jam up a little bit here, but we're going to try to get it around. Okay, and that's just simply because the top link was out, or the side link where it shouldn't have been. All right, the shorter he has his top link, the less likely it will be to dig in. Now they do like to dig in reverse like this. You simply need to be above the ground, pushing the stuff and not really trying to rake hard stuff. See, as he picks up on it, he can apply more traction to the rear tires to give him some more push power. As he picks up, it gains traction. The tires are pretty worn on this. It's wet. We're in sand, but Peanut will get it done. It's just heavy. Now, if that were a four-wheel drive, this is where a compact tractor really excels. Even though it doesn't have a lot of weight, when it's in reverse, it gains about 60% of push power with that front axle drive. So every time he picks up, puts a little more weight on the tractor, and he's able to get more work done. So far, all the tines are perfectly in line. You can see them shaking just like a spring, and that's what you want. Close. There's more to it than just letting it down and pushing. He's using the lift lever more than you think to do this operation. So we were able, that was, a couple 1,000 pounds of roots and sand there. It looked like the tractor didn't have much push power, but there's simply more there than it looks like. This is where you got to really be careful on those long runs in a reverse like that of not letting it dig in too deep, because you're just putting a tremendous amount of pressure, especially if you're in a 75 horsepower four-wheel drive. You're going to be really putting a lot of down pressure once those dig in on that, even though the tractor doesn't have down pressure. And really for cleanup, you'll never use the gauge wheels, and you can't really use them. You could put them back on reverse, but you can't rotate the rake with them on. Some manufacturers put the rake wheels directly up under the back of the tines, but then they don't make a good grader to do your final grading like you need it to do when they're further back. And we use actually a bush hog quality tire on the back that's laminated. We're going to back into this tree which has come down. The leaves have already started dying on it, and this is not what you would do at all. Some of the things we do are what not to do within our videos, but we're going to strip some of the old leaves and stuff off this where we can kind of see the branches, and then we're going to back into it and just give the tines kind of a test in the rake. Not something you would or should be doing, but we're going to see just how much of a rake we got here. Go ahead and drop it down and just strip it out, and we'll see what we get. So right now we're just getting the leaves and stuff off these branches. So we're just raking out the dry leaves off these limbs here. The limbs aren't going to come because they're still connected to a tree. And that's about all the pull that tractor wants right there, just stripping through there, and still don't have any tine damage or anything like that. We've cleaned the rake off a little bit, and we're just going to pull at some heavy stuff that really we shouldn't be pulling at, but just want to see how well these tines perform. So he's adjusting his top link a little bit there to get a better bite. I told him I don't care if we tear the rake up or some tines, just want to see what it'll do. That's where that hydraulic top link really comes in to help when you do different things like this. So he's dragging a 40-foot tree now. That end tine's really, go ahead and we'll push it back. All right, that's good. So far we're able to pull on a lot more than we should be without any problems. All right, so far we don't have a single tine even remotely out of place. So all the rake tines are still in perfect shape. You can see the gap underneath here, you can see the gap underneath here, and it just gives this whole tine the super shaking effect, which is what you want. All right, so let's find something even tougher. Okay, so a lot of these hunks out here that look like rocks, they're simply blue clay And they've just, this is where the Catawba Indians made their pottery. If you can find the original pottery from the Catawba Indians here, it's really valuable. One of the trails for the Catawba Indians used to be right down through here to the side. And so this goes way back here, and this blue clay is what made some of the best pottery ever around here. But he's going to try to pick up, he's going to go through these hunks that were all over this pasture, which his dad's cleaned up some with a box blade before we got here. So those hunks of blue clay will just break up as he hits them. This is definitely going to be a more than a day job cleaning up this 50 acres after this storm. So he's doing what I would do with it, which is pretty much clean up anything I wanted. And I think the most you're going to do, if we're lucky, or you're unlucky, is mess up one or two tines. We may not even do that if we're lucky, I guess. But I kind of use the equipment to the extreme degree and replace what little bitty parts I need. So you can see we're not scared to pull on them. Peanut didn't know he ever had bamboo down here underneath, but this is what this is. So this next pile for the next few feet is just pure rock and trash. And when one tire's spinning, what he's doing is he's using the brakes to stop that one tire to make the other one pull with an open axle like that. That tractor does have differential lock, which would lock both of them solid, but between taking that in and out, it's just easier to use the brakes. So that's certainly not exactly what these rakes were intended to do. I see these outer tines towards the big end really flexing. And the test is going to be, what they end up doing at the end of the day. I pay about double the price for these tines over a cheap Chinese tines. But if you can see, it doesn't get any worse than that. You've got a limb jammed up in there. And so far, I don't see a bent tine yet. So it's pretty awesome. And he doesn't want to get too far to the right here because he said it's really soft and wet and he doesn't want to get stuck. Because now he's got all the weight on one side of the tines. You can see him bending, pulling. It's pulling that whole tree. Just keep on keeping on, Peanut, and we'll see what we've got. Because if this doesn't bend or break a tine, I think it probably should, period, and not be upset with it at all. Right there. I like the way those tines spring. So he's using the brake to try to get more traction. That's still a pretty good sized tree with a full root ball hooked to it. That's what I'm talking about. And he's still halfway hung on that root ball around that tree. Keep pulling. You'll get Nate eventually, don't worry. Peanut said while he had that one out, he was going to go ahead and take it towards the creek. It's still, you can see his tires are wet. I can just see those tines getting mangled, but they seem to be popping right back into position. Unlike one with a girdle, it wouldn't let it even spread apart like that to get a hold of something. He's half in, half out, and all the tines are still going great. The tree's right in between the middle of them. I see some of the tines pulled back at least 10 inches or more. If you show this to your manufacturer that you were pulling a tree with their root rake and wonder why you bent something, I have a feeling they're not going to warranty it. And that's where quality by design, we try to really overbuild, make them tough, and put the best quality components that we can put on a rake for the things we have to buy and can't make, like the tines. Okay, so after Peanut pulled on that big tree and we saw it wedged completely up in the tines, we do have one tine that it's sprung a little bit. It's still usable, it's not broken, but it definitely is just, we've got one tine where that tree was wedged in there that it was pulled way out of shape. Most times that would break if you had a cheap tine. I wouldn't call it a failure. It's just part of what these rakes experience when you go through this abuse. It's still hooked on there for the rest of the day right now, and we're not going to worry about it. You know, it's a cheap tine in relation to how much work we were able to do. So we don't mind showing you here at Everything Attachments what you can expect. And if you do stuff like this with trees like that, expect to bend a tine every now and then. But I've seen other brands of these rakes where you wouldn't have half these tines left. And that's what I would call unacceptable. But, you know, and that's what we try not to have here at Everything Attachments. We want something that'll take the abuse and still keep going as much as possible. Most of this are those chunks of blue clay, so it made us break up. We're just going to see what it does right here. All right, so we've seen a lot of trash and things moved around. We're gonna go put the gauge wheels on and smooth out some of those sandy beached areas where it kind of like has waves on it and show you how to use them. Okay, so now we've bolted on our gauge wheels here, and we're going to do a little grading here on this beach that appeared in the pasture. And we're going to have to, we've never used this particular rake, and so we'll have to adjust these wheels just like you would at home. We're also going to move this top link from the solid position, which you would use for collecting stuff, to the floating position to let the gauge wheels do the work, and the rear lift arms instead of the top link when the tractor moves up and down, making this dive and dip into the sand. And just to give you a little further update on these tines, we did bend this one tine here, which, considering what we did, is amazing. It didn't do more. And if you look starting right here, you'll see where the paint is flaking off, and that's due to the flex. These tines over here that are still perfectly in shape, they've been flexed so much that the paint is just flaking off of them, which it's going to let them rust, but that's okay. The good thing is they were able to flex 10 inches plus backwards, and they're all flaking the paint off, but they're still all in line, with exception of this one where that 8-inch tree was wedged up through it, which should have never been there, but that's the way it is, and so far I'm extremely pleased. So we're gonna adjust on these wheels, and just to give you an idea of the quality of our wheel, this is a laminated bush hog wheel. It is greasable. We use a 1.25 inch axle up here. We double wishbone. This is a double yoke with a cantilever to really give you its ultimate strength. And even just for the all the rakes I've seen, I've noticed that the bolts were turning, or the pins were turning in the wheel. So we actually weld a piece right here so the bolt can't turn, and it has to turn on the bushing it was meant to turn on, which is greased. Right now, so we haven't really tightened anything down except the top one to keep them from falling off. Okay, stop right there and I can adjust it. And rock it, pull forward on it just a little bit. Or pick it up, I know what to do. Pick on up on it. So you've got a set screw with a lock nut here, or a locking nut. There are easier ways we could make this to adjust, but it would add to the cost a lot. We've spent these gauge wheels are high enough as it is, but you get what you pay for. All right, you can see the top link working there as he goes up over heels. It's letting the rake stay level, and the wheels are coming on and back off the ground. We'll probably adjust them down just a little bit, but they've already hit some, and we want to be able to cover all the area. So the top link's floating in the middle, and it's just riding on the rear lift arms. And the pull is what keeps it straight. There's a lot of ridges in this. As we get to a finer adjustment, we'll adjust the wheels closer and closer. So what we've done to do some adjusting on this, we've simply raised the rear lift arms, redone the top link to the middle of the groove, which is reset where the wheels are for us on this run. All right, let's go. And if we need to, we'll readjust the wheels. But that's working more like a grader. Right now it's riding on one wheel. The top link is in the middle. You can see it moving back and forth, and that's allowing the rake to stay level. If you hook that on a solid link, the tractor will definitely affect every time it goes up and down. So just by seeing what I'm seeing right now, we're getting a lot of what we want just by adding that new top link slot, which we've never had before, which you'll find like on a Harley rake, which is a power box rake, $10,000 attachment that can do the same thing. So it's important to watch that top link pin working back and forth in that slot. That's letting you know that it's doing what it should be doing. So this is an adjustment between your rear lift arms and the gauge wheels while keeping your top link in the middle of that slot, moving back and forth just like it is, so that you're able to keep that float going on. Yeah, that new top link slot was a great idea. You can see it really rolling the pin in there right there. That's exactly what you want to see it doing right there. Instead of adjusting the wheels, we were simply able to adjust it with the rear lift of the tractor for those last final grades. Okay, so we've kind of cheated a little bit. We've gone a little bit backwards. We've already had the wheels on it, and we wanted to show you an angle. And normally this would be in a more area where there's more debris and you're trying to make a windrow. We've already raked a lot of the debris out of this, so we're probably not going to get a windrow of anything. And I don't really recommend just dropping out the wheels, but it is easy and it was convenient for us right now. But if you're going to be in heavy debris, these need to be removed. So we're going to make just a couple of passes on an angle to show you what you can do. It's 2 holes off of center. You've got 2 more choices if you want to further angle it. Go ahead, Peanut, and give it a try. If you notice, we've moved the top link back into the solid connection, not into the slot. So it's bringing it kind of to one side, and if there was more debris, that's what would be filtering out instead of just loose sand. And so a lot of times you can make 4, 5, 6 passes to make a really high debris row, and then it can be cleaned up easy with a rock bucket or something with your loader, or push backwards into an area if you've got a box blade, or even that turned around backwards with the root rake. So if you know you're not going to be in some really high debris areas and you're going to be going back and forth between leveling and debris, it would be okay to leave those main supports on there for the rear wheels. But if you hit them up against something sideways and forget about them, they would bend. So you can see the dirt filtering through like it's supposed to. It's finally coming out the end there, and he is getting some debris and grass wads coming out the end there. And this isn't the perfect condition for this, but it's what we've got to work with for today. This is my son Charles. He's almost 18. He starts Lenoir University in just a couple weeks. You haven't seen him before on any of the videos, but maybe in the future I'll get a break and we can turn it back over to him. Him and Peanut ought to be around a long time, as a lot of people think Peanut's my son. Peanut's actually 5 years older than I am. Because he's such in good shape and he's such a small guy, he does look awfully young. Keep us in mind at Everything Attachments. We'll be super happy to help you with any of your needs in the future. We've come to the end of our rake video. So far, we're super happy with everything. We love this new slot that we've put in here, as you can watch the pin roll back and forth. This new Category 1 and Category 2 step pin. This is where it gets really confusing, because some of the new compact tractors, which weigh half of this, are now Category 2. This tractor's totally capable. It's a Category 1. I'm almost 50 years old, so I go back to where any tractor below 60 horsepower and 10,000 pounds was always Category 1. Now the manufacturers are switching it up so much that some of it doesn't make sense to me, but it's nothing I can do about it. So we're going to start putting more and more of this step pin, Category 1 and 2, good for quick attaches of both sides on all of our implements. And with quality by design, we keep you as in mind first. I've seen a few of the manufacturers, and I'm not going to mention their names, they're top line manufacturers, and now they have and they call it different things. I'm going to call it a junk economy line, to where they are building it here in the States, but they're building it so cheaply to stay competitive with someone like me that you're getting an inferior product and you're still paying the same thing for the name brand. At Everything Attachments, we have only 2 in-house salesmen and myself. We don't have 50 salesmen out on the road. We don't have distributors. We don't have dealers. And even though, yes, you are buying the freight in a way from us, even though it's free freight, we all know that isn't free. If you go to your dealership and he has a product there, or you want to order a product, he will still have to ship it, and you're going to pay the freight from whatever manufacturer to wherever area you're in. And then the dealer, of course, is going to add more. So we're just simply able to give you a better product at a better price without hitting any of those middle pieces. So I design it, we manufacture it, ship it to you, and it's a done deal. We don't sell to any dealers anywhere at any reduced cost. So give us a call or an email at Everything Attachments. We'll make sure that you get the right attachment for your tractor. This is our extreme duty, meant for up to 75 horsepower. We just introduced today, and the video will be out, our compact rake, just simply built lighter so the smaller tractors can handle it. Comes in a 5, 6, and 7 foot. We could make a 4 if you just had to have it. It does only have the category 1 hitch on it because it's meant for smaller tractors. And it does have the offset, the same as our value blade. So if you had a small tractor and you wanted to get a windrow out to the side and you can't do an 8-foot rake, then you're still able to angle it, offset the whole rake, and bring everything to the side in a windrow like you should. Now this, along with a pulverizer, if you would go over rough landscaping with really rough stuff first with a pulverizer, and then use a landscaping rake, and you've done what is and I call a pulverizer usually a poor man's Harley rake. A Harley rake is awesome to use. The only problem is they're $10,000. Between a pulverizer and a landscape rake, you actually can do more things. It is a little more time consuming, but it's not $10,000, and you can do a lot more in the long run with different things you're doing. Give us a call or an email. We'll be happy to help you.